welcome to the As of Yet Unnamed podcast. I am Parth. Here with me is Connor.
Hey there.
We're the members of Acid, and today we're going to talk about our first 3 releases.
All right. So Acid was a middle school project of ours. Started in summer of 2009, and I believe it was Parth's idea originally. I'll let him talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, starting the band was my idea. I just kind of felt like it would be a fun hobby, and I asked Connor if we wanted to be in it, and I also asked my cousin Unnamed if he wanted to be a part of it, and that's how it got started back in 2009.
Yeah, at the time I was taking bass guitar lessons, so I already had a bass guitar, and Parth owned a baby Strat. And that was the first 2 instruments that made up the Acid sound.
Yep. I had this guitar for a while, but I never really played it. I was not experienced at all at this point.
Yeah, neither of us really knew what we were doing as far as playing, songwriting, or production. And later on, we'll splice some clips of our early songs in here, and you'll see what we mean by that.
Yeah.
But the name Acid, that was also Parth's idea. We came up with a couple alternatives, but Acid was the one that rose to the top.
Yep. So I think me, Connor, and Unnamed had some names we had brainstormed. One I remember that I liked was Frontier. For some reason, I really like that name. It kind of sounds like a 70s classic rock band to me now, but...
Like Boston
or
something.
And then I think one name you like was The Night People.
Yeah. And it's funny, that's now a song by Deaf Heaven, which ironically enough is a band that's pretty influential on our later stuff. Yeah. But we won't be getting to any of that in this episode.
No.
And then lastly, another one that you had said was Rhythm Mountain. Yeah. I don't remember that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, Unnamed, my cousin, had come up with Rhythm Mountain as a suggestion. I think he got it from Soundgarden. Like, it was a similar, type of name.
Has a similar, comes off the tongue similarly.
Right. But I'm glad we went with Acid, honestly, even today.
I don't remember any other ones outside of those, but out of what we brought to the table, I think Acid was probably the best.
Yep.
And so probably around summer of 2009 when we were starting to brainstorm all these ideas and kind of got the seeds planted, that was when we recorded our first song, funnily enough. It was called The Room, and before we settled on where we were going to really record at, we used an MP3 player to record in my parents' house in the bonus room. We picked that spot because the bass was already at my place. Parth could bring his guitar really easily. And my little brother had a toy drum set. And that's the only song in our early discography to feature drums, really. At least live drums in any way.
Yep. And then after that song, we ended up moving to my basement to record, and that's still where we record to this day.
Yeah. If you look at our releases now, you'll see Parth's Basement Studios. That's what we put on it.
Yeah.
It's Parth's basement, but it's his parents' house. But, it's our studio.
It's basically our studio.
And one last point to make before we really get into the nitty-gritty of these albums is that they are not good.
No.
They are poorly recorded. The songwriting is bad for the most part. And we were still joking around at a lot of the points. A lot of the recordings, you can hear us just talking to each other, like before we started playing and after, and in some cases, during.
Yeah.
We won't be featuring any of that, though. And most of what we have for these albums at this point is just nostalgia because it was fun at the time. And we kind of look back on it as, the golden years of recording when we could record 3 songs a night somehow.
Right. Yeah, they are very nostalgic. I think they have a certain charm to them now, but they're not good. I wouldn't expect anyone to like them.
Yeah, they're not available online anywhere. and I would never make anybody pay for them. If they're ever available, it will most definitely be for free.
Yeah. So we can start with our first album, Instrumental Demos. This one was recorded in fall 2009. And you can really tell that on this album, we had no experience with playing instruments or recording music or anything like that. Connor had bass lessons before, so he had a little bit of practice there.
Yeah, I could play to a certain extent, and I could read music and tabs, but I had never been in anything that required me to like come up with the parts on my own. I just always played covers of songs that I liked on the bass.
Right. And I had zero experience with any instrument at this point.
Yeah, it sounds rough. You'll hear that when we get into. We're going to do a track by track on these, so we'll put in some clips when we get to that. But yeah, just the production's rough. We were recording on the MP3 player still, sat next to a speaker, so there's lots of background noise and everything just sounds kind of overblown. We didn't know how to mix or master. We were nowhere close to that. I know at this point, Parth was designing the covers.
Yeah, I was. They're not that well designed, but I did for instrumental demos. I actually used a stock Windows background of like a desert and just changed the tint on it. I think a little bit.
You like orange tinted it.
Yeah, and added some like really basic looking font.
Yep,
and that was the cover.
And yeah, you could probably find that picture on any computer that ran Windows XP. So
yeah,
you've probably seen the cover and just didn't know it. One other fun fact: the name Instrumental Demos. I think I came up with that.
Yeah,
and at the time, I was listening to a lot of old Red Hot Chili Peppers albums, like their first couple releases, and the re-released albums all had demo takes on them. And for some reason, I enjoyed the demo takes better than the studio takes on those albums. So I was like, we should name our album Instrumental Demos. I don't know why. I thought that was a good idea. But, I mean, they are instrumental demos. That is for certain.
They are.
I don't think we'll ever be re-recording any of these.
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Yeah. No, we'll pass on that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the track by track. We'll just give like a brief breakdown of each song, and for some of them, we're going to have some clips play just to give some examples of where we were at musically at the time. First up, we have a song called Critical Point, and part of the title is third recording because it was the third song we recorded. So
yeah, Critical Point is not a good song. It's very basic, drum and guitar.
Bass.
Bass and guitar.
Yeah, we didn't have drums at this point.
Bass and guitar track. Very short. It's just pretty clear. We didn't really know how to like write a song at this point.
Yeah, we were basically just throwing chords together. And it's like a hardcore, like punk song almost, just with no edge.
Right.
Clocking in at 1 minute and 24 seconds.
Right.
And again, you can hear at the beginning and the end, you can hear us talking. There's like, I do a countdown and I sound so young.
Yeah, there's nothing like offensively bad about this song. Like, it's not the worst one here, but yeah, it's not the greatest start, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not the strongest song to start the album on. And yeah, it's listenable given the circumstance. Oh, and after Critical Point, we have a song called EIDE. And EIDE is probably the best example on the album of us just hitting record and playing, and whatever happened, that was the song. And boy, does it show.
I feel like we kind of just drove off of a cliff after Critical Point, because it makes Critical Point sound like a masterpiece.
I don't think we're on time for a single measure of the entire song. if you could even divide it into measures. It's just random guitar and bass notes and an extended like minute and a half distorted bass solo at the beginning, which was my idea because I was heavily into Metallica's first album, Kill 'Em All, and I really liked Anesthesia.
Right. The bass solo starts things off okay, but everything after that, just the guitar tones are terrible or not on time at all. The riffs are horrible. This one's hard to listen to.
Yeah, it's probably the worst one on the album.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, objectively, it's probably the worst song on the album. It's barely music. Barely. Next up, following the masterpiece that is EIDE, we have Inversion, parentheses, Demo 2, because it was the second song we recorded. And this is where we kind of started to figure out what we were doing a little bit. There was like some forethought put into what we were going to do, like in terms of what we do when and how the song kind of flows. Not a lot, but there are riffs that we like come back to, and we're on time, and it's got a pretty decent like pop punky influence to it, which is all but absent in our newest music.
Yeah, this one is, I mean, if it was produced better and at a better guitar tone and drums, it would probably be okay.
It'd be listenable.
Yeah. I remember when we first recorded this, I thought this was like amazing. Like we'd outdone ourselves for some reason.
Yeah, we loved this song so much so that it's going to come back in another 3 songs because we liked it so much we did it again.
Again, in this one, you can hear us talking at the end. And again, I sound very young. It's kind of weird to hear myself back then.
Yeah, at the very end, you can hear Parth pick up the MP3 player we were recording with, and he says the time, how long the song was. Like it was some big accomplishment to have this song be 2 minutes and 57 seconds.
Right. Yeah, I mean, not one of the worst songs on the album, but
probably one of the better ones, honestly.
Yeah.
Looking at just this album.
So the next track is called The Room. First recording, because it was the first song we recorded for this album. Wow. And this was the one we recorded at Connor's parents' house back in the summer of 2009. And it's the shortest song on the album. It's like 37 seconds. Very basic, but it does have a drum track.
Yeah,
so
it's unique in that aspect. It is the only song out of these early albums to have drums.
Right.
That wasn't recorded with Parth's cousin. He had a drum pad available. But all the tracks me and Parth did up to a point didn't have drums, except for The Room.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, this one, you know, it's the first Acid song ever, so definitely has a lot of nostalgia and I guess a bit of a special place.
Yeah, I still like it, even as basic as it is. And one point to make now is that even nowadays our lineup is you on guitar and bass and me on drums and whatever else I need to do.
Right.
But back in the day, Parth was playing the bass, even though I had the bass lessons, and I was playing guitar. I guess because we thought that those lessons gave me like a leg up on the guitar, and it was more the main part of the music. Right. I don't really know the reason for that switch.
Yeah, I don't really either.
That's the name. That's the reason why Inversion is actually called Inversion, is because we swapped instruments, and it just kind of stuck.
True. Yeah, I guess we figured you just might be better at guitar, like you said, because of those bass lessons.
Yeah.
You had like slightly more experience than me.
Yeah. It doesn't really show in these guitar solos I did, though.
Yeah, not really.
And then next up after The Room, We have our cover of Paranoid by Black Sabbath, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's pretty bad actually.
Yeah, it's awful.
For some reason we don't even have the guitar intro in our cover, like that lead part at the beginning. We just go straight into the verse. And yeah, when we speed the song up and the vocals aren't particularly good either.
This was the first song to have any vocal performance courtesy of me.
Right.
I was doing my best Chris Barnes Cannibal Corpse impersonation, and it's not good.
And on this one, I believe I was on guitar.
I played bass because I had to sing at the same time. We didn't know how to record separately yet.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I improvised a solo on this one instead of like playing the solo that was in the song. And wow, it's terrible isn't like strong enough to describe this solo.
Has to be experienced to be believed.
I had no idea how to play a solo.
And the cherry on top is that the song is 5 minutes and 5 seconds long. Because as soon as we hit record, Parth had to go, like, his mother called him, and he had to go listen to what his mother had to say. And instead of stopping to the recording and just starting over again, I just filled the dead air by talking into the mic about random BS. And so the song doesn't start for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's kind of funny looking back on it.
Yeah.
Like, all that like improv while I was gone.
Because nowadays we would just stop recording.
Yeah.
And do whatever we needed to do and then start recording again.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Not back in the day though.
But yeah, this is definitely in the bottom half out of the album, I would say.
Yeah, it's above EIDE because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
EIDE is just sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so after we disgraced Black Sabbath's name, we liked Inversion Demo 2 so much that we made Inversion re-recording.
Yeah. And this is a faster and longer version of Inversion.
Yes.
And it's worse, actually.
Yeah, it manages to be much worse.
We have an extended solo here that just goes on and on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we knew what, like, keys were or anything. The bass is just hitting notes, and the guitar is just hitting notes, and none of it matches up particularly well. But the riff from the first time we did it's still there to, like, bookend it. So it's basically the same song.
Yeah. I don't really have too much to say about this one, except it's a worse version of the first Inversion.
Yeah, there's no reason to listen to this one.
So the next song we have is ZFTS Zombies from the Sky. And this is actually one of the better ones on the album.
Yeah, it is surprisingly okay compared to the rest of the album.
Right. You can actually see a little bit of like songwriting here. It sounds like we put a little bit of effort into it.
Yeah. There's an extended lead part where we actually made an effort to have the guitar and the bass follow the same notes instead of just playing whatever they want, which is a step in the right direction, most certainly.
Right, and we're like on time for pretty much the whole song.
Yeah, there's one riff in particular where we speed up, like alt-picked, and we were on time for the most part.
Surprisingly, it sounds decent.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some mispicking and, missed notes and stuff, but that's just all over these albums. You gotta accept it if you're gonna listen to them.
Yep. And I actually remember that in the bridge of this song, what we play was inspired by this game called Tap Tap Revenge. It was this game on the App Store back in 2009, 2010. That was pretty popular. And the theme song for that game had a section very similar to this bridge in this song here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clearly inspired by that, so that's kind of funny.
I will say that this is the first time where we like properly have a bridge, and like it just doesn't kind of happen. Like we actually build up to it and lead into it, which is crazy when you think about this song compared to some of the other ones on the album.
Right.
EIDE has practically no structure whatsoever.
Right. This song's surprisingly structured.
Okay, so after the actually not bad Zombies from the Sky, we have the finale, the 5 minute and 37-second long Voltage. And we basically just play this one riff for 5 minutes.
Yep.
And that's it. And it's got this long intro that I basically ripped off from an All That Remains song called Erase from their first album, because I was too cool for metalcore, and I thought that was melodic death metal instead.
Yeah. I mean, wow, this is like just kind of beats you over the head with the same riff. We just play it over and over like ad nauseum, and it really doesn't change that much.
Yeah. There's no guitar solo, but there is a bass solo.
Yeah.
It's noticeable.
The bass is pretty loud in the mix. And don't worry, it's not a good bass solo. But yeah, it's not one of the better songs on the album.
Yeah, you could do a lot worse. It's kind of middle tier. It's listenable, but nothing happens.
No.
You listen to the first minute and you've heard the whole 5 minutes.
Right. We just padded out the runtime.
Yeah, we wanted a long first album.
Yep.
Speaking of length, instrumental demos came out to be right around 28 minutes. So
Yep.
we were proud of that back in the day.
Yeah. Still our shortest album, I think.
Yeah, still.
Yeah.
We've never gone shorter than that.
Right. It really is basically an EP. Kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
But
It's closer to an EP than an album, but it's just... there's a reason that we don't have it anywhere to listen to for others to hear.
right. Just don't listen to this.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Okay, so moving on from instrumental demos, our next album was called As of Yet Unknown. And we started the recording for this pretty much immediately after we finished up instrumental demos. It lasted from about fall 2009 to summer of 2010. And this album is a noticeable step up from instrumental demos, despite having no time in between them, really.
Yeah, I don't really know what caused this like sudden step up. Maybe we just, playing on the first album, we improved from that and just trying to learn songs, from tabs and stuff. But yeah, this album is weird. It's definitely way more experimental than the first one.
It's way more experimental than anything else we did until Patchwork Landscape, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it stands out in the regard that these songs are nothing like anything else we did at the time.
No.
Or even really since.
Right.
I had this obsession with guitar effects pedals, so this is kind of the pedal album. We had a new distortion pedal in the Digitech death metal pedal. What a winner that one is. We had a Digitech phase that we made extensive use of on this album. There was a wah pedal that I believe we still have, even though we don't use. And we also had a whammy pedal, because those are oh so useful. Not really, but we tried to use it. Like Parth said, this is just very experimental. We were trying to think outside of the box, and we succeeded sometimes.
Right. And I think maybe having all these different types of pedals just made us want to experiment with them, and maybe that's part of why it sounds this way. And honestly, I think this is a solid step up from the first album, and out of this first early batch of 3 albums, I would say this is the best.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the best out of these first three by a pretty large margin, and we'll talk about why that is once we get to the third album. Uh, one thing to note about this is that this has an absolutely legendary cover made by Parth himself in paint.
Yeah, I made the cover for this one as well. I mean, the first one was better, guys.
Yeah, the stock Windows picture was a better cover than the drawing
Yeah,
quotation marks that Parth came up with in paint.
I literally drew some shapes in paint, added some really basic font, and put used some of the paintbrush, added some random color.
I remember you used the spray paint can along the edges.
Yeah,
It just and it just says "as of yet unknown" on the front, that in font, basic Times New Roman practically font.
yeah, it looks like some kind of parody cover.
Yeah,
It's hard to take it seriously, but
yeah. And the name "as of yet unknown," I mean, it's basically just us being too lazy to think of a name. Because I remember Parth asking me what we wanted to name it, and I just said, "Well, it's as of yet unknown." And we decided to name it that.
yep, we just went with that.
All right. And then getting into the track list here, we're going to kick the album off with an intro track called The Sirens. And it is a minute, roughly, of just guitar feedback and noise that we modulated with the phase pedal.
Right.
And it's definitely out there. I wouldn't have expected this album to start the way it does, given how instrumental demos sounded.
Honestly, I respect this song because I feel like this is almost something we might do today, but just with better production.
Yeah, it wouldn't sound like this, but it's very similar to a lot of what we've done on some of our newer albums.
Right. And I'm kind of shocked we decided to experiment like this back then, right after instrumental demos.
Yeah, we went from having no idea what we were doing to experimenting heavily. And then that experimentation all but went away until some of our newer stuff.
Right. Honestly, it's a cool intro track.
It is. It's
I
a good
kind of
way-
like this one.
It's a good way to start the album off. It's like you said, it's respectable. This album, out of these three albums, this is probably the listenable album. Like, you could play this, and as long as you can get over the fact that it's two 15-year-olds recording in a basement, that it's not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And moving on to that, we have one of our first, what we consider to be our classic songs, called A Song. And this clocks in at 4 minutes and 26 seconds. And we're proud of this one, I would say.
Yeah, I was definitely very proud of this one. And honestly, I still think songwriting wise, it's solid. Again, there's this really weird bridge in the middle, which is sort of experimental for us. Just some weird chords, and there's a pretty cool solo at the end. You can definitely hear the Rage Against the Machine influence, I think, on this song.
Yeah.
I was listening to them a lot back then.
Rage Against the Machine was one of the few bands that me and you both listened to heavily at the same time.
Yeah.
So that influence comes out a lot on some of this early stuff. But yeah, the songwriting's there. It's what it needs to be. Right. And I like the riffs are cool. I'm proud of us coming up with that. And like you said, the solo I think is pretty well done, especially compared to the last album.
Right. As compared to the solos on the first album, this is a big step up.
And then following up a song, we have one of the stranger and more experimental cuts on here called "The World Is Not Enough," and this is just a quick 2-minute, almost interlude that I recorded on my own one day. I believe it was the morning after we had recorded a bunch, and Parth was on the computer trying to get the MP3s off of the MP3 player. And while he was doing that arduous process, I took the liberty to record "The World Is Not Enough," which is essentially just a quick 2-guitar multi-track of me playing the same riff 2 times. And it's kind of got like this kind of melancholy feel that a lot of our music later has. But it's just really simple, and there's not much to it, but I like it because I made it.
Yeah. Yeah, this was interesting. It was very, spur of the moment. Connor decided to record it. And yeah, it's not bad, like he said, it's very simple. It's basically one riff, but yeah, I mean, there's worse stuff on this album.
That is for certain.
So next up, we have Pit of Darkness, and this is not one of the highlights. Yeah, it starts off with this harmonic riff, I'm just repeatedly playing this same natural harmonic note, and it's extremely annoying.
Yeah, it's screechy and distorted and loud and just doesn't sound pleasant.
No, I don't really know what I was thinking there. And the riffs on this one are okay.
They're simple. They're a little heavier. I mean, there's a little more metal influence in them than like the punky stuff that was on instrumental demos. There's one of the riffs I would almost call a death metal riff if it was faster. But yeah, there's nothing special about them though. And the solo is a work of art.
Oh man. The solo, I was on the solo and I used the wah pedal. I overused the wah pedal. I mean, it's all over the solo. I didn't know how to use it in moderation, I guess.
Parth pulled his best Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly well-written solo either.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the bass plays the riff and the guitar does whatever it wants with no real thought.
Right.
That was kind of the early staple of our solos.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I would honestly say this is one of my least favorites from the album.
Yeah, it's probably the worst. Like, there's maybe one other contender, but this is down there.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be the worst one for me.
And then moving on from Pit of Darkness, we have Ghostly Freedom, which you might not be able to tell from the name, but it's actually a cover of the song Freedom by Rage Against the Machine, and we just called it Ghostly Freedom because there was this weird audio artifact at the very end that sounded like a ghost.
Yep.
That was it. That was why it's called that, and it's a cover of Freedom. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just go listen to Rage Against the Machine's version.
Right. Yeah, it's not a great cover. I mean,
the energy's there. The playing's not.
Right. You were on guitar on this one. The solo actually wasn't too bad.
I think I took the time to actually learn that solo from the song. I don't think I played it perfectly, but I did actually learn the tab for it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just not well produced. I don't know why you would listen to this rather than the original version.
Yeah, it's one of the skippable songs on here, not because it's bad, but because it's just not worth listening to.
Yeah, and again, we don't really have any drums on these early tracks either.
Yeah, the drums play a pretty big part in that song on the Rage Against the Machine version, and we don't have any of that. So it just comes off kind of flat.
Yep. So the next song is called Infinity Dimension, and this is, in my opinion, one of the better ones here. This one's weird. I feel like our experimentation was like on full display
Yeah,
on this song.
this is peak weird acid for this part of our history. It's like you said, it's one of the better songs on here. There's only one other one really that I would put in the same class, maybe a little above it. But it's good. It's got this kind of bass riff that repeats while the guitar has like this kind of clashing, dissonant almost part over it that actually works.
Yeah,
I don't think we knew what we were doing, but it worked.
it did.
And we make effective use of the wah pedal when the bass riff comes back around. Instead of just playing the same thing again, we change the guitar part up. And
Right.
there's some actual more deep thought put into this one than, oh, let's play this riff, and then play this riff, and then play this riff.
Yeah, it's I'm almost impressed like how much progress we'd already made from instrumental demos to when we recorded this song. And yeah, the whole song has this like kind of melancholy, kind of dark feel to it, which for this time was kind of weird for us. Like, I wouldn't have expected us to write this at
Yeah.
this point.
Most of our stuff around this time is either kind of punky, maybe even pop punky to an extent, or just kind of hard rock. Nothing really downtrodden, more like upbeat kind of stuff. And then Infinity Dimension comes out of nowhere and just sounds like no other tone we've had.
I don't know how we really came up with this. It's not like we were trying to go for this type of sound, but
Yeah,
it worked out.
it would be interesting to try it again. See
Yeah.
what an updated version of Infinity Dimension sounds like. All right, so following up Infinity Dimension, we have another one of what at the time we thought was our classics, Heat Wave. And this one's kind of interesting. We started playing around with some reverb and echo in places, which has kind of become a staple of what we do now. But it's interesting to hear kind of these early bridges and breaks and like the very tail end of this before we bring back one of the heavier riffs. Kind of very interesting sound for the time. We kind of layered distortion and reverb and got this kind of big shining guitar sound that's pretty predominant in our newer stuff, but it was very unique at the time. We were pretty proud of it.
Right. Yeah. I think there's some interesting distorted guitar tones on this one because, using the delay and reverb like Connor said. And I really like the beginning before it gets into this sort of very punky riff. And also the last about minute and a half where we go into this solo, which is, I think, kind of cool. The whole middle section, I feel like we're repeating like 2 or 3 riffs for like 3 or 4 minutes. And it definitely gets, feels like we're beating you over the head with it.
Yeah, we padded it out a little bit, but the ending's worth it, I think. And
Yeah.
relative to the rest of the album, like I said, keeping the context in mind, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at the time I was very proud of that ending. And even now I think it's definitely one of the better moments on this album.
Yeah, it's a strong climax, which
Yeah.
a lot of these songs lack.
Right. The next song we have after Heat Wave is Storm of the Century. This one is extremely different from the rest of the album because this was actually recorded by just me and my cousin Unmil in Florida when I went over to his house. And it's literally a pop punk song, like textbook pop punk. I don't know what caused this sudden shift in style, but yeah, it's not particularly memorable or that good. I mean, it's literally the most basic pop punk riffs you can think of, and the production isn't great either. The guitar tone sounds pretty weak. You know, it's. I can't say I'm proud of this one, honestly.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this one since I wasn't really involved in the writing or recording of it. But just listening to it, it is like you said, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like there was definitely two clashing styles between me and then you and your cousin. And yeah, it's just like for pop punk, it's just so average. Like there's nothing really stand out about it. I don't mean to sound like I'm insulting y'all's songwriting because it's not like what me and you were doing was much better. Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of the low points on the album for me next to Pit of Darkness.
Yeah, I'd actually agree with that. At least like what me and Connor were doing was kind of interesting and unique. But this was, you could probably find, 100 other bands that sounded like this.
Alright, and then to close the album out, we have a bona fide classic. I still love this one to this day. Dreams Exist in Reality. And this is probably the highlight, I would say, of the album. My favorite on here. It's, in terms of our songwriting, it's the peak of where we were at here. We kind of utilized everything that we had on the rest of the album, all the pedals, actually trying to plan stuff out and think ahead of what we're about to do. And it was also the only song on the album that had contributions from all three of us, in that Parth's cousin was here at the time with us and helped record it. I was there for about half, maybe a little over half of the session, and then Parth and his cousin finished out the rest of it after I had left. And it's a highlight. There's some things that are wrong with it that I would fix if I could, but it's a good song.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Connor. I would say it's not only the highlight of this album, but of our first three albums, I would say this is the best song.
Yeah, if you were going to listen to anything off of these three albums, I would recommend this song and nothing else, really.
Yeah, it's just some pretty unique riffs here that are actually like pretty well written, I would say.
Yeah, we make creative use of the wah pedal. Like with the main riff, we use the wah pedal in kind of a different way. Not using it to like solo, but as part of the riff.
The one like glaring blemish on this song is the solo. The solo itself is written all right, but we put this horrendous like I don't know, some kind of effect on it.
It's like a phase that also pans left to right.
Right, yeah.
And it's just the solo would be better without it.
Yeah, it would be a lot better.
Yeah, a lot better, honestly. I believe that part happened after I left.
Yeah. I want to say that was Unmill's idea, and I don't know why. It doesn't add anything to the solo. It detracts from the solo, actually.
It's so loud. It would be... You could try to fix it by just lowering the volume of the solo, even with that. effect on it, but that's still not really gonna. It's not better. It should be better without it.
Yeah. But I think we did a good job of closing out the song after you left. The song stays, pretty engaging and good the whole way through. I guess with the exception of the solo, but I am still proud of this one.
Yeah.
I think it holds up pretty well.
I would say out of all the songs on this album, this one holds up the best.
Yeah.
By like a long shot.
Like you said, I think it's the crowning achievement of that early era of acid.
Yeah. It kind of, if you look at it, you can see some of the seeds of like the post-rock and post-metal ideas in this song kind of deep in there with the building and, kind of the back and forth between quiet and loud a little bit.
Right.
And we actually managed to close the album. It feels like the finale of the album.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these songs don't even feel like they really end. So that was an accomplishment for us at the time.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad it's the closer. It's a good one to go out on. Oh no. I don't even want to listen to these songs.
This is like the longest one too.
No.
Okay, so we're gonna close the podcast out today talking about an album we did. It was around winter 2010 to summer 2011. We called it Game Over because it probably could have ended our career if that was the last thing we ever released. And it is bad. It is just bad.
Yeah. Yeah, this is horrible. I mean, after that, improvement and growth we made on As of Yet Unknown, we just threw all that out the window, I guess, because this album's a train wreck. I'm not going to lie.
When you listen to it, you don't listen to it because it's good. You listen to it to see how we fuck up next.
Yeah. It's entertaining how bad it is.
Yeah, I think both of us would agree that this is probably the least favorite album of all time, maybe. But definitely out of these first three, this one is to be avoided.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a half and half album. Half of it was me and Parth unlearning how to write music. And then the other half was Parth and his cousin Unnamed. And the songwriting is not bad, per se. But I'll let Parth explain. You just go ahead.
Yeah. So the half of the album that me and Unmil did, I decided for some reason I would add singing on it, my own vocals.
His golden pipes.
Yeah. Having never sung anything before, no like professional training or anything. I wrote all these lyrics myself too. They're not well written either. I really didn't know what I was thinking. I think I just wanted to sing. I legitimately thought I sounded good at the time, but looking back on it now, over the years, it's horrible. I can't stand listening to it, really. And that, I would say that alone just destroys this album. There's other problems with it, but that just taints this.
Yeah. We'll get into the track by track and kind of talk about like who did what, like which half is which half, so to say.
Yeah.
But it's not like a half and half in the sense that tracks 1 to 6 are me and you, and tracks 7 to 12 are you and Unmil. It's like mixed up.
Yeah.
So you can't escape Parth's glorious voice. You'll get like a one song break, and that one song is a train wreck of poor production and poorly written death metal-esque riffs that we can barely play.
Right. Yeah, it physically hurts me to listen to this album now.
Yeah, it's painful. And the album art is, no offense to your cousin, but it's bad.
Yeah, I know, it is bad. Yeah, it's pretty goofy.
Yeah, it's the only album art he's ever done for us. And It's just kind of goofy, like you said. It's got like Nintendo characters on the front with like crosshairs over them.
Yeah, it's
like
got
they're
like
getting
Mario
shot.
and Luigi
Yeah,
in crosshairs.
and it just says game over. And I mean, we couldn't use it. Nintendo would sue the hell out of us if we put that anywhere.
Yeah. It's a fitting cover for this album. The worst cover for the worst album.
That does make sense. Now, while we're shitting on Unmil, would you like to plug his band that is actually good?
Oh, sure. So my cousin Unmil does have like a kind of a professional band now called Madwoman. So if you want to check them out, you can find them on Spotify. I think you can find them on YouTube. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're doing good stuff. They don't sound like we used to.
No. They're more of like a folk rock, almost sort of a Red Hot Chili Peppers vibe at some points type of band. Much softer than us.
Yes. Yeah, but if you want to hear some good stuff Unmil has done, wait for some of our later albums that we're going to talk about, or go check that out.
Yeah.
I don't want to just trash talk him.
Yeah. There you go. That's a plug for Unmil.
Yeah, there you go. I guess we've done enough stalling. We got to hop into the track by track. And so,
Awesome.
my favorite part of the podcast. So to start the track list off, we got a real banger called Darkest Hour, clocking in at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. This is a Parth and Connor original. Unmil wasn't involved with this one. All the lyrics here, we'll go ahead and make a point to say Parth did write himself, which is impressive in its own right. There was a lot of lyrics, even if they're not particularly well written. That was a lot of work.
It was.
And this is also when we made the switch from MP3 player recording to recording with Audacity on an ancient laptop that Parth had. And that probably has a lot to do with why this sounds the way it does, because we had no idea how to record with Audacity. We just plugged up and hit the button and started playing all the instruments at once.
Yes, we did.
And this one, Darkest Hour, kicking us off, has some weak riffing. It's got like a breakdown, which we fell in love with around this time because we started listening to a lot of metalcore.
Yeah.
And so you'll find the breakdown not too much on this album, but going forward, you're gonna find a lot of breakdowns.
Oh, yeah.
For a good time, you're gonna find a lot of them. And yeah, this has me doing some vocals, Dollar Tree, Chris Barnes. Oogs.
No, not a great start to the album. All the riffs are very, sound very muddy. The vocals you can't really decipher very well.
They're very low in the mix, and it's already a growl. It's not like a high register, like scream or anything.
Right.
It just kind of blends together with the guitar.
Yeah.
And the bass.
And the drums we recorded from a keyboard, like a preset on a keyboard. So they sound pretty bad.
Yeah. This album, for the songs me and Parth did, we did the keyboard drums when they show up. Not every song has them that we did. But we still hadn't gotten a drum pad. That would be our next big investment. But yeah, the drums on this sound bad. The mix is bad. The guitar tone's nothing to write home about.
This isn't a good one.
Yeah.
Guys.
I mean, if this doesn't indicate what the rest of this album's going to be like, I don't know what will.
So the next song we have is our first Parth and Unmil original called Rust. Robust Underground Steel Towers. What a name. So yeah, this is the beginning of my singing. I am singing on this song, and it's not good. I can't sing, and I don't sound mature yet because I was like 16 when we recorded this.
You got a very nasally singing voice at this point.
I do. Clearly sound pretty young.
Yeah, and none of the melodies are particularly crazy or anything. You're not stretching your voice.
Right. It's not like super well written vocal melodies or anything.
Yeah. It's just very basic, and it's a 16-year-old dude singing it.
Yeah, and the songwriting itself is okay.
It's a lot more hard rocky than our other stuff. There's some riffing, but nothing super heavy. But more riffing than a lot of our like more punky stuff.
Right. You can really start to hear like the metal influence start to come in at this point. And yeah, none of these riffs are like anything to write home about, but it would have been so much better with just as an instrumental, you know.
Yeah, I wish we had the masters for these, because these wouldn't be bad as instrumentals.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you like to try to explain that name, or do you have an explanation for it?
For some reason I liked Rust as a title, but then I wanted to come up with like an acronym for it. So I literally pick like random words for each letter. It doesn't mean anything.
One thing that is kind of interesting is we started using a lot more clean guitar. At least on these songs you and Unnamed did. Which clean guitar becomes very prominent the further down the road we're going to go.
That is true. We did. And yeah, these days it's actually a pretty major part of our sound.
So coming up after robust underground steel towers, we have Under a Psychedelic Sky, which was a mine and Parth original, and arguably out of the ones that me and you did, has the best riffs. It's better than Darkest Hour.
Oh yeah.
But after we got done recording this, I remember I was proud of my riffs because I played guitar on this one. I was proud of some of the heavier stuff. And there's a solo that I remember being like, yeah, I really like that solo. I was proud of that. And then I came back the next time to record some more music, and we listened to Under a Psychedelic Sky, and it had Parth singing on it. And the last time I was here, it didn't. And he killed it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went back and added vocals on this song afterwards without telling Connor. And I was just like, hey, the song has vocals now, by the way. So...
He didn't save a copy of the song without the vocals.
Yeah.
So
we'll
this
never
is the
have
only
that version.
Yeah, this is the only one that exists. And yeah.
Sitting on the rainbow tracks at night. We've been struck by the sun cold light. Away from home.
Yeah, this is worse than the last song. I'm really like straining my voice here, I guess, to sound angry. And like, I don't know, aggressive. It just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really, it doesn't sound the way I think it sounded to you when you did it.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I like some of the riffs. This is kind of like you said, this is where like the heavier stuff started to come in. There's a lot of fast picking in these riffs, even if they're still not played particularly well.
Right.
But the songwriting, like, is still developing, but it's coming along. Like, it's got kind of the songwriting you would expect from me and Parth at this point, based off the first two albums. Just a little heavier.
Mm-hmm. The verse riff in this song, actually, it was quite kind of complicated. Even now, it's not like an easy riff to play, even now, I would say. So, the next song we have is called Mass Destruction. And this was Parth and Connor original. This one is okay by this album standards. The riffs are fine. This has vocals from Connor, but you can't really hear them.
Yeah, they're very low in the mix. Almost inaudible. You can't make any words out.
And this one actually has drums. I went back and added keyboard drums later. So it's not really an improvement to this song. I don't think it like elevates the song, but they're there.
Yeah, they're there. It gives it a little extra energy. There's some like tom rolls that that you did behind some of the riffs.
Yeah,
It's something we hadn't done before, but I wouldn't say that we did it well.
Right. And then at the end we have this breakdown, which becomes pretty prominent in our work as we keep going.
Yeah, the metalcore Years of Acid will see lots of breakdowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mass Destruction, it's okay.
Yeah.
At least you can listen to it.
You can do a lot worse on this album.
Yes, much, much worse. Alright, so coming up after Mass Destruction, we got a song called Escape, which is, again, okay. It's about on par with Mass Destruction. The vocals are provided by me again, doing the growling, except they're much louder in the mix. It's very noticeable, and they're not great. Still was working on that whole vocals thing. That was not nearly where they're at now. But the riffs are okay. There's one really catchy riff at the end that I remember being really proud of. It's kind of like a southern swing to it that I really liked. And another interesting note is that there's an extended guitar solo that we actually half and halved, where Parth recorded the first half and I recorded the second half.
Yeah, I agree. This one is okay. I also like that little riff at the end with that like southern flair. Yeah. The solo, that was kind of cool how we split it up, I thought. This was actually first song we recorded after I got a new guitar, a full-size guitar. Because up until this point, we've still been using my mini Strat that I'd had since I was like 10. So I finally got an adult guitar.
Sponsor us, Ibanez.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would say this is about on par with Mass Destruction. I would probably put it slightly higher. So next up on this roller coaster, we have Hallucinations, which is another Parth and Unnamed original. Instrumentally, I think this is actually one of the better ones me and Unnamed did. This actually has some, decent riffs. And the first solo I have in this song, I still think is actually like a good solo, if I'm being honest. But again, I added vocals to this, so it's not a good song.
Yeah, it's just it's a top tier instrumental. It turns it into a bottom tier song.
Yeah. Plus, the last like 2 minutes of this song is like this extended guitar solo, which just goes on for way too long. We really should have just not included that.
Yeah, shortened it considerably.
Yeah.
It comes out to 5 minutes and 40 seconds, which is about 2 minutes too long.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
It's, like I said, as far as instrumentals go, it's one of the better ones that you and him did. I like it. I like the riffs and stuff. But yeah, I just wish we had the instrumental version. Some of those vocals, the lyrics, it's too much, Parth.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Following up Hallucinations, we have another Parth and Unnamed original, The Elite Rain. And this one has some lyrics that Parth wrote, and they are lyrics, let me tell you. Instrumentally, it's not bad. There's some chunkier riffs than what, like, the rest of the stuff we're doing. It's, like I said, that metal influence coming out a little more. But it's just every time you're into the song, you come at us with with the vocals, and it just takes you right back out of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
We shall overcome.
Yeah, like you said, there are some actually decent riffs here, and the songwriting isn't too bad really. But these vocals are like insufferable. I'm sorry. I mean, the lyrics too. Oh man, I was trying to write some kind of like political protest song, I think, with this one, and
It's got some like woke war lyrics
yeah,
all about Vietnam.
yeah, it's horrible, as you would expect. So, the next song we have is yet another Parth and Unmill original called "The Return," and with this one, I think we were trying to go with a Tenacious D style song with humorous lyrics, what I thought were humorous lyrics, and just kind of a goofy sort of vibe.
Yeah, it's got like the hard rock riffs, like all off that Tenacious D album from the Pick of Destiny, like the album that went with the movie. It sounds like that music.
Yeah,
It's just not a particularly good version of it.
yeah. I actually remember being into Tenacious D at this point and like watching that movie while we were recording this album. So I think I got inspired, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's again, I mean, there's some riffs there. None of them stuck out really, but
No.
there's nothing offensively bad about the instrumental.
And of course you have my vocals, and
Wonderful lyrics.
yeah.
The highlight of the album comes in this song, though, when Parth hits his highest register that he possibly can, and it is a piece of art.
It's amazing.
Before the beat's eyes, he exploded. Let out a piercing shriek.
I'm surprised I was able to go that high. It comes out of nowhere, but it's hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
And with that, I do not think we will be returning to the return.
No.
We're getting close to the end, finally. Number 9 is You, Y-O-U. Another Parth and Mill original, featuring lyrics by Parth, singing by Parth. And the unfortunate thing about this song is there's a long guitar line in the intro that I think's kind of cool, actually. And it kind of just goes to waste, because the rest of the song is like every other song we've talked about, basically.
Yeah. This has some more awful singing by me. It's no surprise. But man, these vocals are very cringy, man. If I had to pick, this is probably my least favorite on the album. Mostly because of like the vocals and the lyrics. And the riffs really aren't anything that special either, I don't think.
Yeah.
Other than the one riff Connor mentioned, which is kind of interesting and very elongated.
Yeah, it's like a very long, non-distorted, but very aggressively picked riff.
Yeah.
It's very kind of odd for the time for us.
Right.
And the rest of the song doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Is there a person that the you is in the song title?
No. I have no idea what inspired these lyrics. I think I just made something up, honestly. That sounded kind of deep. But it's not.
On the edge of time,
Man, this torture, guys. Listening back to this for me.
Yeah, this is you is probably the worst. The worst. The worst.
Yeah, it's the bottom, the low point of like the worst album we have. I would
Yeah.
say.
And it's only uphill from here, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the songs me and you did were any better.
Yeah, they weren't really much better.
But yeah, this is the absolute bottom of the Acid discography.
Yeah. Somehow we managed to make our worst album 3 albums in. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. I don't know. We just fell apart during this album, I guess. I don't know why. But we only got one left.
All right, guys. We've made it to the end of Game Over with the last track, which is the title track called Game Over. And this one's an instrumental that is a Parth and Connor original. And it's okay. Honestly, there isn't anything offensively bad about this one. Don't worry, I'm not singing.
Yeah, no singing. Thank God. We were really proud of this one back in the day because we managed to pad it out to the 8-minute and 47-second mark, which was the longest song we'd ever recorded at that point. But it's being very generous to call the last 4 minutes a song. It's an extended dueling guitar solo between me and Parth with no other part of the instrumental. And you can even hear us like talking to each other sometimes, and it's just very lazily done, kind of slapped on the end to make the song long.
It is. I think the song probably would have been better just without that part. I think it's unnecessary. And there's definitely some timing issues in this song at the beginning where we're just off time.
Yeah, it feels like when we recorded the guitar parts, we were off time without realizing it. And then when we went back to add keyboard drums, and it was really hard to get them on time because the guitar parts weren't on time. So it just kind of sounds a bit jumbled and messy.
Right. But it does pick up a little bit with this honestly kind of cool, like, distorted riff about 2.5 minutes in or so.
Yeah. This is also a pretty landmark moment in that we used the rain sample at the beginning with the lightning and everything to set like a mood and an atmosphere,
Right.
which is a staple of our newer music.
Right.
But this was the first time we ever did it. And again, it's kind of lazily done. We just kind of slapped it on there and then the guitar comes in and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's the first time.
Yeah, I think that rain sample was from the keyboard too.
Yeah, it was. We recorded it straight off the keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the close of the album.
Yeah, with
And-
that song, this train wreck comes to a close.
Finally. And I think that's going to bring us pretty much to the end of this episode.
Yeah, did you want to talk about like your favorite track from each of these?
From each one, instrumental demos, I would probably say Zombies from the Sky. It's my favorite. I wouldn't listen to any of these on their own, not even ZFTS. But as a song, it's the most well-written, and it's listenable. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
It's the high point of the album by a mile.
right. Yeah, I would agree with Zombies from the Sky. It's listenable. The most competent, I guess, from that one.
And then moving on to As of Yet Unknown, I would say my favorite is probably Dreams Exist in Reality. I think we really were on to something with that one. It's just a good, it's well written, good song. But I have to give a shout out to Infinity Dimension as a number 2 close runner up. I got a soft spot in my heart because it's so weird for us. And I love experimental music. And it was probably the most experimental we got for a long time. So,
yeah, I would agree with Dreams Exist in Reality as my favorite for sure. It's, like I said, you know, the best work we've done out of that early era. I'll give a shout out to A Song, just because I've always been a big fan of that one because of all the riffs and you know that solo at the end.
and last but not least, we have Game Over. And I don't know. I don't particularly like any of these songs.
Yeah.
I would say maybe Under a Psychedelic Sky might be my favorite instrumental. But I mean, I don't like any of the songs we did particularly. And the good stuff about the songs you and Unmill did, it's not worth listening to the vocals for it.
Right. I mean, I don't like any of these songs either, but if I had to pick, I guess I would pick the title track, Game Over, because the production on it is actually, like, bearable, and there's no vocals for me, and there's nothing, like, offensively bad about it, so I'll just go with that one.
All right. Well, some good picks. No one else has ever heard this music, so they'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's going to bring us to the end of our first episode of the As of Yet Unnamed podcast. This is going to bring to a conclose kind of what I like to call the early acid era, where we were still figuring out what we were doing and what our sound was going to be. These albums are all over the place in terms of like playing prowess. Some songs we knew what we were doing, and then 3 songs later, we just throw all that out the window and have no idea how to play our instruments again. The production's terrible. We didn't know how to record. We were experimenting with singing, and that didn't work. So yeah, this is just a big jumbled mess of us throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And next episode, hopefully we'll get into some better acid music. Some stuff you could actually sit down and listen to if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah, this early batch of albums is just extremely unfocused and not competent. But things only get better from here.
Yeah, we're at the bottom of the hill. It only goes up from here, generally. There's no more back down, really, from here.
Yeah.
But thank you all for listening, and y'all enjoy the rest of your January.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll catch you next time.